In a moment of unforeseen destiny, a blind Mustang defies the world with its indomitable spirit. Witness the journey of a soul abandoned yet destined to heal and transform. Prepare for an odyssey of redemption, where a forsaken creature becomes a beacon of hope. In the heart of an unforgiving wilderness, there existed a spirit that many had forsaken. A noble creature, deprived of sight yet resplendent with unwavering determination, had become a symbol of despair for those quick to judge. Unbeknownst to many, within its gentle heart burned an indomitable will to persevere, a will that would soon defy the cruel hand of fate. Under the scorching gaze of a relentless sun, a barren stretch of land lay in wait for a tale of unforeseen redemption. In this unforgiving terrain, where the wind carried echoes of forgotten dreams and the parched earth murmured ancient secrets, there existed a modest ranch that had long borne witness to the eternal interplay of hope and despair. It was here, amidst the dust and whispering sagebrush, that a once proud Mustang, once celebrated for its untamed beauty and unbridled vigor, now lingered in a state of suspended purpose. Rendered sightless by an act of cruel fate, the animal's eyes were shrouded in perpetual darkness, yet even in this absence of vision, a resilient spark endured, hinting at an inner strength that time had not yet extinguished. The man who had nurtured this noble creature was known to the locals as Mr. Whitaker, a weathered soul whose life bore the indelible marks of hardship and loss. His rugged visage, deeply etched with lines of sorrow and sacrifice, told the silent story of a man who had once dared to dream as widely as the horizons he had traversed on horseback. However, the inexorable passage of time and the relentless weight of misfortune had eroded those dreams until the once magnificent Mustang had become nothing more than a burdensome memory, a reminder of better days now irretrievably lost. Thus, on one languid afternoon, as the heat of the day commingled with the cool whispers of regret, Mr. Whitaker made the heart-wrenching decision to part with the animal, selling the blind Mustang for a mere $1, a sum that could scarcely convey the immeasurable worth of the creature's indomitable spirit. In that brief, solemn transaction, the Mustang was entrusted to a stranger, a new owner whose very presence exuded quiet determination and unspoken empathy. This newcomer, whose eyes shone with a deep, contemplative resolve, appeared to perceive not the ravages of blindness but rather the latent promise of redemption hidden within the Mustang's weary form. The exchange was void of ceremony and flourish. It was a silent, mutually acknowledged necessity, a passing of stewardship that neither party fully comprehended at that very moment. As the new owner led the Mustang away from the confines of the ranch, a heavy stillness descended over the land. The atmosphere itself seemed to tremble in anticipation, as though the elements sensed that an extraordinary metamorphosis was at hand. The Mustang moved with a surprising grace, each deliberate step betraying a measured confidence despite its impaired sight. There was a certain poetry in its gait, a silent testament to an unyielding will that refused to surrender, even when deprived of the guiding light of vision. Relying on an intrinsic awareness, the creature navigated the world by attuning itself to the language of the earth, its every movement echoing a quiet determination to forge a new destiny. The new owner, known in hushed reverence as Miss Evelyn Carter, carried with her a legacy of personal triumphs intermingled with profound heartaches. Having weathered the storms of loss and endured the crushing weight of despair, Miss Carter had long sought a means to mend the shattered fragments of her soul. In the solitude of her existence, she had discovered solace in caring for those abandoned by society, a passion manifesting in her compassionate work with troubled children and wounded veterans. It was within this context of healing and resilience that the blind Mustang found its new sanctuary, not merely as a forsaken animal but as a living symbol of potential transformation and hope. In the days that followed the fateful sale, Miss Carter devoted herself wholeheartedly to the rehabilitation of the Mustang. With careful tenderness and unwavering commitment, she nurtured the creature back toward life, each gentle gesture and softly spoken command serving as a quiet promise of renewal. Under her attentive care, the Mustang began to rediscover the joy of movement and the thrill of purpose. The barren ranch, once a silent monument to sorrow, gradually transformed into a crucible of rebirth, a place where the delicate interplay of light and shadow bore witness to the miraculous resurgence of life. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitaker was left to grapple with a profound and gnawing regret. In the quiet aftermath of the sale, as the echoes of that fateful transaction faded into the vast silence of the empty ranch, he found himself tormented by visions of what might have been. Each creak of the weathered wooden floorboards and each whisper of the wind through cracked windows evoked memories of the Mustang galloping freely across open plains, a potent reminder of a life once filled with promise and unfettered passion. The realization that he had underestimated the hidden value of the creature, that in his despair he had allowed go of a spark of enduring brilliance, began to haunt him with relentless persistence. Beneath a sky streaked with the vibrant hues of dusk, Mr. Whitaker's heart stirred with a fragile ember of hope, a hope that dared to challenge the bitter taste of regret. For even as the Mustang embarked on its uncertain journey under Miss Carter's care, its every measured step seemed to defy the notion of irrevocable loss. The blind Mustang, though deprived of physical sight, now emerged as an emblem of redemption, its silent struggle resonating with those who, like its former owner, had learned that even the most forsaken souls could harbor the seeds of greatness. The stage was set for a narrative that would intertwine loss and hope, regret and renewal, in a tale destined to leave an indelible mark on all who bore witness. As the wind whispered through the barren fields, its voice carrying the scent of sage and the promise of change, the tale of the blind Mustang and its compassionate caretaker began to unfold with deliberate grace. Every hoofbeat on the weathered earth echoed like the steady rhythm of a heartbeat, a sound imbued with the quiet intensity of perseverance. Miss Carter, with every gentle command and each reassuring caress, communicated silently to the Mustang that its blindness did not diminish its intrinsic worth nor define its future. Instead, the creature was to be celebrated as a symbol of overcoming adversity, a living testament to the fact that sometimes the most profound transformations arise from the depths of despair. In the ensuing days, as the early morning light caressed the dew-laden ground and the sky blossomed in soft pastels, the bond between Miss Carter and the Mustang deepened. The ranch, its time-worn fences and weathered barns bearing silent witness to 1,000 untold stories, became a sanctuary of second chances, where every ray of sunlight and every cool breeze served as a reminder of life's inherent resilience. The interplay of nature's elements with the tender care bestowed upon the Mustang underscored an immutable truth. Redemption was not the preserve of those who appeared flawless, but rather a triumph born of the courage to embrace one's vulnerabilities and strive against overwhelming odds. In the quiet moments of reflection that followed each day's end, Mr. Whitaker found himself revisiting memories of the Mustang's former glory. The very act of relinquishing the creature now ignited in him a bittersweet yearning, a deep-seated desire to reclaim even a fragment of that lost splendor. Yet, as the cool twilight deepened and the stars began to shimmer like distant promises across the velvety night sky, he came to recognize that the pain of regret could indeed serve as fertile ground for transformation. In this realization lay the unspoken acknowledgement that every ending also harbored the seed of a new beginning. Standing on the threshold of this emerging era, Miss Carter marveled at the silent revolution unfolding before her eyes. With each passing sunrise, the once forlorn Mustang grew more attuned to the intricate language of the world, a language not conveyed by sight but experienced through the subtle murmur of the wind and the delicate caress of the earth. In those quiet hours of dawn, when the world seemed to exhale hope along with the morning mist, the bond between caretaker and creature deepened into an ineffable connection, a silent dialogue that transcended spoken words. Thus, as the day yielded to night and the ranch settled into a hush punctuated only by the whisper of nocturnal creatures, the narrative of the blind Mustang had been irrevocably set into motion. Every moment, every measured breath of the wind, now resonated with the promise that even in the face of despair, redemption could flourish. It was a promise that echoed through the empty corridors of a weathered ranch, whispered in the rustle of leaves, and shone in the quiet determination of a creature who, though robbed of physical sight, had found a way to see the world through the eyes of the heart. Under the gentle caress of an early morning breeze and beneath a sky that hinted at infinite possibility, Miss Carter devoted herself further to the rehabilitation of the blind Mustang. Her unwavering resolve and compassionate guidance imbued each day with a quiet determination to restore what had once been lost. The transformation unfolding at the ranch was not confined solely to the animal. It resonated deeply within the hearts of all who found solace there. As word of the Mustang's remarkable evolution spread through the local community, families burdened by sorrow and veterans haunted by the specters of past conflicts began to seek refuge on the property. Their arrival was marked by hesitant steps and guarded expressions, for they had long carried the weight of despair and disillusionment. Yet, as they encountered the gentle creature whose every movement exuded a silent promise of healing, an unspoken understanding blossomed, a recognition that even in the absence of physical sight, the Mustang possessed an extraordinary capacity to perceive the unvoiced wounds of the human spirit. One crisp morning, a small group of children, their laughter tentative and eyes wide with both curiosity and trepidation, arrived at the ranch. The Mustang, initially cautious and reserved, slowly approached these young visitors with a measured grace. Each deliberate step conveyed an innate sensitivity, as though the creature was intuitively aware of the fragile innocence and unspoken hopes held within the hearts of the children. As the animal drew nearer, Its soft wickers and gentle demeanor served as an invitation to share in a quiet communion that transcended words. In that moment, the ranch transformed into a sanctuary where the echoes of past pain were momentarily replaced by the tender promise of healing, a promise that emerged not from grand gestures but from the simple act of being present with one another. Amidst this evolving tapestry of renewal, a young veteran by the name of Marcus arrived at the ranch one overcast afternoon. His eyes, darkened by memories of conflict and loss, betrayed a soul that had endured much yet still yearned for reprieve from its burdens. Marcus, whose every step was weighed down by the ghosts of a turbulent past, found himself drawn to the Mustang's unspoken language of empathy. The creature, whose blindness had once been deemed a crippling affliction, now embodied an extraordinary form of wisdom, one that transcended the physical realm and penetrated the depths of human suffering. As Marcus stood in quiet awe beneath a canopy of fading light, the Mustang moved towards him with a deliberate tenderness, its every gesture suggesting that redemption was attainable even in the midst of profound despair. Miss Carter, observing the poignant exchange with quiet satisfaction, recognized in Marcus a mirror of her own journey, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit that could flourish in the face of overwhelming adversity. In the weeks that followed, the ranch began to hum with the subtle rhythms of healing. Families, once weary and burdened by the weight of their personal tragedies, found themselves enveloped by an atmosphere of gentle rejuvenation. The Mustang, with its extraordinary ability to bridge the gap between human hearts, became a living symbol of the potential for transformation. The soft murmur of conversations, punctuated by quiet laughter and murmurs of gratitude, filled the air as visitors recounted the profound impact of the creature's presence. Each encounter was imbued with a delicate interplay of hope and renewal, as though the ranch had been transmuted into a crucible where sorrow and despair were gradually reformed into resilience and possibility. Yet, the path towards redemption was not without its trials. Nature itself, in its inscrutable wisdom, sometimes conspired to test the new-found harmony. Dark storm clouds gathered on the horizon, their ominous forms a stark contrast to the gentle serenity that had come to define the ranch. On one particularly tempestuous evening, when the wind howled with a fury reminiscent of anguished cries and the rain fell in relentless torrents, a group of villagers sought shelter within the protective confines of the property. Among them was an elderly woman whose life had been etched with the lines of grief and the wear of countless hardships. In the dim glow of a solitary lantern, the woman felt drawn to the Mustang, a creature whose calm presence exuded a quiet strength that seemed to challenge the fury of the storm. As she cautiously approached, the Mustang lowered its head in a gesture that spoke of deep, unspoken understanding. In that brief yet profound exchange, the elderly woman experienced a moment of clarity, a realization that redemption was not the preserve of the flawless but could be discovered in the act of embracing one's vulnerabilities and surrendering to the possibility of renewal. Meanwhile, the quiet torment of regret continued to haunt Mr. Whitaker, whose soul was still reeling from the irrevocable decision to part with the once celebrated Mustang. Night after night, he lay beneath the vast expanse of a star-strewn sky, each glimmering light a silent reminder of the lost promise of unbridled freedom. The rustling of the wind through the worn corridors of his former ranch served as a constant echo of the laughter, hope, and vitality that had once animated his days. Yet, as the Mustang's influence began to ripple through the lives of those who now frequented the ranch, Mr. Whitaker found himself irresistibly drawn back to the very place where his decision had sown the seeds of both regret and unexpected possibility. On a cool morning tinged with the scent of fresh dew and the soft murmur of awakening nature, he returned, burdened by an ache that was equal parts sorrow and longing. What he encountered was a scene transformed. The ranch, once an emblem of lost dreams and silence, now thrummed with a vibrant energy that spoke of rebirth and redemption. Children played in the tender light of dawn, and families gathered in quiet clusters, their faces softened by hope. In the midst of this transformation, the Mustang moved with an assured grace, its presence a powerful reminder that the journey towards healing was marked by both struggle and triumph. As days melted into weeks, the narrative of the blind Mustang blossomed into an enduring saga of resilience and transformation. Miss Carter, whose heart had been tempered by her own trials, orchestrated moments of quiet intervention that allowed the wounded to find solace in unexpected companionship. The ranch itself emerged as a living canvas upon which the interplay of light and shadow painted a story of redemption, a story that reached out to every soul willing to embrace the possibility of change. The Mustang, whose physical blindness had once been perceived as an irrevocable flaw, now shone forth as an emblem of the extraordinary potential inherent in every living being. Its ability to silently communicate the language of empathy and hope was nothing short of miraculous, drawing forth the latent strength in those who had long been mired in despair. In the gentle cadence of each passing day, the ranch transformed into a haven where sorrow was gradually replaced by the soft glow of healing. The rustling of the wind through ancient trees and the murmuring of a nearby creek became a hymn of renewal, a constant reminder that even the most scarred hearts could find refuge in the transformative power of compassion. As the Mustang continued its steady progress towards becoming a true therapy hero, its every hoofbeat resonated with the promise that redemption was attainable even in the bleakest of circumstances. For those who had once been lost in the depths of regret, the animal now offered a beacon of hope, a silent testament that every ending harbors within it the seed of a new beginning. Thus, as the narrative unfolded against a backdrop of ever-changing seasons and the enduring pulse of nature, the story of the blind Mustang evolved into a living legend. Every measured step and every tender gesture served as an affirmation of the indomitable spirit that could overcome even the most formidable challenges. The ranch, its landscape transformed by the intermingling of sorrow and hope, stood as a monument to the resilience of both man and beast, a place where the echoes of regret gave way to the gentle cadence of healing, and where the promise of redemption was etched into every ray of sunlight that filtered through ancient boughs. Under a brooding, storm-darkened sky, the day transformed into a maelstrom of fury and uncertainty. The gentle winds that had once caressed the ranch now howled with a savage intensity, carrying with them embers and ash as the distant horizon began to glow with an eerie, fiery light. A single spark, ignited amid the dry brush, swiftly kindled into a voracious blaze. The once peaceful ranch, a sanctuary of hope and renewal, was abruptly thrust into chaos as a wildfire roared to life, its flames leaping hungrily across the parched earth. The acrid scent of burning timber invaded every breath, and the heavy, choking smoke blurred the line between earth and sky. In that moment, nature itself seemed to wage war upon the land, and the fragile equilibrium of hope that had blossomed on the ranch was shattered by the relentless advance of fire. In the midst of this calamity, Miss Evelyn Carter stood resolute, her eyes a blend of fierce determination and quiet apprehension. With every fiber of her being, she sought to shield the vulnerable souls who had gathered in search of solace. The once familiar landscape had morphed into an infernal battlefield, where every gust of wind threatened to spread destruction further, and every crackling of flame served as a reminder of life's precariousness. Yet amid the chaos, there emerged a singular presence that defied the ravages of nature, the blind Mustang. Despite its loss of physical sight, the creature moved with an uncanny grace, its every step imbued with the wisdom of survival and the subtle guidance of instinct. It was as though the Mustang possessed an inner vision that transcended mortal limitations, a quiet certainty that beckoned all who witnessed it to hold on to hope even when the world around them seemed consumed by darkness. Mr. Whitaker, whose heart had long been burdened by regret, now found himself face to face with the consequences of his past decisions. Standing at the edge of the burning property, he was assaulted by memories of days when the Mustang had galloped freely across the open plains, a time when beauty and vitality had defined its every movement. The searing heat and roaring flames stirred within him a tumult of sorrow and longing, a painful acknowledgment of the value he had once failed to see. In that harrowing moment, the echoes of lost opportunities mingled with the desperate urgency of the present, compelling him to act in a way that might, at long last, redeem both himself and the noble creature he had once forsaken. Marcus, the young veteran whose soul had been scarred by the relentless toll of conflict, stood transfixed amid the rising chaos. His eyes, dark with the weight of past battles and haunted memories, absorbed the apocalyptic scene before him. The cacophony of the inferno, the relentless crackle of flames, the anguished roar of the wind, and the muffled cries of those seeking refuge, resonated deeply within his being. In the midst of the maelstrom, Marcus experienced a surge of raw, unfiltered emotion. The overwhelming terror of imminent disaster clashed with a newfound clarity, a recognition that every moment held the potential for both irreversible loss and miraculous transformation. As the wildfire surged forward with relentless force, the danger to the ranch and its inhabitants grew ever more dire. The flames, fueled by the dry, brittle brush and whipped into a frenzy by the wild wind, advanced as if determined to devour every remnant of hope. Panic rippled through the gathered community, and in the chaos, a small, trembling figure became separated from the safety of the group. Time seemed to slow as the vulnerable child, eyes wide with fear and heart pounding in terror, stood alone in the path of impending doom. It was in that critical, heart-stopping moment that the blind Mustang, guided by instincts that defied its physical limitations, sensed the peril and surged forward with an urgency that was almost palpable. With powerful, measured strides, the Mustang bounded through the thickening smoke and searing heat, its hooves striking the scorched earth as if determined to outrun the very flames themselves. The creature reached the frightened child in the nick of time, lowering its broad head in a silent plea for the child to seek refuge upon its sturdy flank. In that suspended moment of connection, the Mustang transcended the label of a forsaken animal and assumed the mantle of a guardian. The child, initially paralyzed by fear yet drawn to the calm assurance in the creature's eyes, hesitated only for a fleeting moment before clinging desperately to its back. In that act, the Mustang not only defied the destructive power of the wildfire but also redefined its very existence, transforming from a symbol of perceived uselessness into an emblem of hope and redemption. Miss Carter, her heart pounding with a mingling of relief and renewed determination, witnessed the Mustang's courageous act with tears glistening in her eyes. Every gallop, every determined stride, resonated as a declaration that hope could prevail even in the direst of circumstances. The roar of the flames, once a cacophony of despair, now formed a backdrop to a narrative of salvation, a narrative in which the Mustang, through its silent heroism, had become the catalyst for transformation. The trembling community, now rallied by the sight of this extraordinary act, began to look toward the possibility of escape and renewal. Even Mr. Whitaker, whose soul had been steeped in regret, felt a stirring within him, a reluctant recognition that perhaps it was not too late to reclaim a measure of redemption. As the wildfire advanced, nature presented its next, most formidable obstacle, a towering wall of fire that threatened to sever the only escape route from the ranch. The inferno blazed with an intensity that rendered the night nearly as bright as day, and every moment seemed to carry the weight of an impending finality. In the face of this overwhelming barrier, the Mustang, its spirit unyielding, made a split-second decision that would alter the destiny of all who depended upon it. With a swift, decisive turn, the creature veered away from the main path of destruction and surged toward a narrow, uncharted passage that wound its way through a dense copse of ancient trees. This hidden route, though fraught with its own hazards, represented the only hope for salvation amid the encroaching flames. Miss Carter, recognizing the significance of this precarious opening, rallied the remaining survivors with a voice that trembled yet held an unmistakable command. She urged every frightened soul to follow the Mustang, to trust in its guidance even though the path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. Her words, imbued with both urgency and an enduring faith in the possibility of renewal, resonated deeply with those who had already experienced the Mustang's silent heroism. In that critical juncture, the collective will of the community began to coalesce around a singular purpose: to survive, to escape the clutches of the wildfire, and to embrace the promise of a new beginning that lay just beyond the blaze. With the Mustang leading the way, the group moved swiftly along the narrow corridor between devastation and deliverance. Every step was a struggle against the oppressive heat and choking smoke, yet the creature maintained a steady, almost otherworldly calm as it navigated the treacherous route. The rhythmic pounding of its hooves against the scorched earth formed a steady cadence, a heartbeat of resistance that inspired those who followed to press onward despite their terror. In that moment, the Mustang's blindness became a symbol of transcendent insight, its every movement guided not by sight but by an inner vision that trusted in the benevolence of fate and the resilience of the human spirit. Within the tight confines of the escape route, the intensity of the crisis reached its zenith. The world outside was ablaze, yet within this narrow passage there flickered the possibility of safety. The Mustang paused momentarily, its silhouette outlined against the raging inferno, as if to reaffirm its resolve and assess the path ahead. For an instant that seemed to stretch into eternity, there was a silence that spoke volumes, a silent promise that this very creature, once dismissed as useless, would now carry the weight of salvation upon its steadfast shoulders. Then, with a renewed surge of determination, the Mustang resumed its charge, each gallop a defiant act against the forces of destruction that sought to extinguish every spark of hope. The emotional intensity of the moment swelled within every heart present. The child, still clinging tightly to the Mustang's back, appeared as a fragile emblem of all that was at stake, and every survivor in that desperate procession felt the magnitude of the creature's heroism. The fiery chaos outside now paled in comparison to the quiet, resolute courage embodied by the Mustang. The animal's every movement, every carefully measured stride, was a living testament to the fact that even in the darkest hours, redemption could emerge in the most unexpected of forms. It was a moment when the boundaries between despair and hope blurred, when the inherent worth of every life was affirmed by an act of selfless bravery. In the heart of that turbulent night, as the flames battled against the will of a determined few, the Mustang's role evolved from that of a simple, forsaken animal to a veritable therapy hero, a guardian whose silent charge not only saved a precious life but also ignited within every witness a profound realization. The inferno, with all its fury and unbridled force, was gradually forced to yield before the unyielding spirit that had come to define the night. Every soul, from the grieving Mr. Whitaker to the battle-weary Marcus and every frightened child, felt the stirring of a deep-seated transformation, a recognition that their lives were intertwined with a force far greater than the flames that threatened to consume them. In the final, desperate moments of the confrontation, the Mustang led its makeshift caravan through the narrow passage as the fire roared behind them. The blazing wall, once an insurmountable barrier, now served as a grim reminder of the ordeal from which they were emerging. As the survivors crossed into a clearing where the tumult of the inferno began to subside, a collective exhalation of relief and awe filled the air. The landscape, scarred by the fury of the wildfire, now bore witness to a rebirth that transcended the physical destruction. The heroic act of the blind Mustang had transformed the narrative of the night, turning despair into a testament of the enduring power of hope and redemption. In that climactic instant, as the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon and the fires softened into a distant memory, the Mustang, its body bearing the marks of a fierce battle yet its spirit unbroken, stood as a living emblem of transformation. Every trembling heartbeat of the survivors resonated with the truth that redemption was not a distant dream but an ever-present possibility, realized in the selfless courage of one determined creature. The ranch, once shrouded in regret and desolation, was now the stage upon which the extraordinary tale of survival and renewal had been written, a tale where even the most abandoned soul could emerge as a beacon of hope. Thus, in the midst of a night marked by chaos and despair, the story of the blind Mustang reached its zenith. The creature, which had been cast aside and diminished by the blindness imposed upon it, had risen to become a guardian and a symbol of redemption for every life touched by its quiet heroism. With the wildfire finally yielding to the unstoppable force of human resilience and the indomitable spirit of nature, the boundaries between loss and salvation dissolved into a single profound truth, that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, every soul possesses within it the power to ignite a transformation that can change the course of destiny. In the quiet aftermath of the raging inferno, the ranch stood in a delicate silence, its once familiar landscape transformed into a canvas of charred remnants and tender signs of regrowth. The heavy, acrid smoke that had blanketed the night slowly gave way to a gentle mist as the first rays of dawn emerged, casting a soft, golden light over the land. Although the scars of the wildfire remained etched upon the soil, nature had begun to reveal its innate capacity for renewal. Amid the remnants of devastation, fragile green shoots pushed through the blackened earth, and wildflowers, delicate and resolute, emerged as quiet symbols of rebirth. It was in this tender interplay between loss and life that the true essence of redemption revealed itself. Standing atop a gentle rise, the blind Mustang, its coat still bearing the marks of the recent ordeal yet radiating an inner luminescence, surveyed the transformed landscape. Its eyes, forever shrouded in darkness, now appeared to possess a visionary gleam born of an unyielding spirit. Beside the creature, Miss Evelyn Carter gathered the survivors in a small clearing, her voice calm and measured as she addressed the assembled group. She spoke with an eloquence that resonated with both sorrow and hope, recounting the trials they had endured and the miraculous transformation that nature now exhibited. Her words, chosen with deliberate care and delivered without haste, invited every listener to see that even in the face of overwhelming destruction, the seeds of renewal could be sown and nurtured by compassion and steadfast resolve. Among those present, Mr. Whitaker, whose heart had long been burdened by the regret of past decisions, now found himself transfixed by the scene unfolding before him. Each tentative step he took across the revitalized paths of the ranch felt as though it carried him further from the shadows of his past. In the tender glow of the morning light, he approached the Mustang, a creature he had once forsaken, extending his hand with a reverence that bridged the gap between human frailty and the resilient spirit of life itself. In that poignant moment of quiet communion, the silent language of redemption spoke volumes. Every soul, regardless of its scars, held within it the potential for transformation and healing. The Mustang, once deemed useless because of its physical blindness, had metamorphosed into a living emblem of the power that resides within every wounded heart, a guardian whose silent perseverance had taught all who witnessed its journey that true vision was found not in the eyes, but in the spirit. Marcus, the young veteran whose life had been marred by the ravages of conflict and loss, stood nearby with a quiet intensity. His eyes, once burdened with the weight of unspoken sorrows, now shimmered with a clarity that could only be born of profound transformation. In the gentle murmur of the recovering landscape, he heard the echoes of his own heartbeat, steady, resolute, and full of unspoken promise. The painful memories of past battles began to yield to the soft cadence of nature's revival, Each sound and sent a reminder that the journey from despair to hope was one that he was not destined to walk alone. In the Mustang's unyielding march toward renewal, Marcus saw reflected his own capacity for change, a silent affirmation that every moment of suffering could be transmuted into a stepping stone toward a future replete with the gentle power of healing. As the day unfurled, the survivors gathered beneath the sheltering boughs of a venerable oak tree, a living monument that had withstood the fury of the wildfire and now stretched its arms skyward in silent testimony to endurance. Under the protective canopy of the oak, the community shared stories of loss, survival, and the nascent promise of hope. Each word that was spoken, each tear that was shed, became part of a collective narrative that celebrated the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring capacity for rebirth. The air was filled with a delicate symphony, the soft rustle of leaves, the gentle murmur of a nearby stream reawakening, and the distant song of birds reclaiming the sky. These sounds, imbued with the quiet magic of a world that could rise from even the darkest of nights, wove together the disparate threads of individual journeys into a tapestry of communal renewal. Miss Carter, whose compassionate leadership had been the steady beacon guiding them through the tempest, now expressed her heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to witness such an extraordinary metamorphosis. With each carefully measured word, she reminded the survivors that redemption was not a distant, unattainable ideal but an ever-present reality waiting to be embraced through acts of kindness and unyielding perseverance. She recounted how the wild Mustang, in its silent heroism during the tumultuous night, had transcended its physical limitations to become a guardian and a therapy hero, a living reminder that every soul possessed the potential for greatness regardless of its apparent imperfections. Her gentle tone carried the weight of a profound truth, that every ending bore within it the seeds of a new beginning, and that every scar told a story of survival and hope. In the reflective silence that followed, Mr. Whitaker wandered slowly along a path now softened by the tender glow of early sunlight. His mind, once clouded by regret and lingering sorrow, began to clear as he observed the small miracles of nature unfolding before him. A butterfly, its wings a vivid tapestry of color, fluttered past as though heralding the promise of change. Tender leaves, emerging against all odds from the remnants of charred wood, swayed gently in the breeze. With each passing moment, the landscape transformed into a living canvas where the interplay of light and shadow narrated a story of persistent hope. In this serene communion with nature, Mr. Whitaker resolved to atone for his past misjudgments by dedicating himself to the care and nurturing of the sanctuary that had so profoundly altered the course of many lives. Marcus, too, found solace in the delicate rhythms of the rejuvenating world. In quiet moments of introspection, he meditated upon the intrinsic link between pain and the capacity for renewal. The memories of conflict, though not entirely erased, had begun to meld with the soft cadence of nature's rebirth, each recollection serving as a reminder that the journey toward healing was a mosaic of both bitter and sweet fragments. In the presence of the Mustang, whose silent courage had transcended the boundaries of despair, Marcus saw not only a reflection of his own struggles but also the unyielding promise that every life could be rekindled by the power of hope and compassion. As the sun descended slowly beyond the horizon, draping the sky in rich hues of crimson and gold, the survivors gathered once more for a final act of solemn celebration. Under the expansive dome of the starlit sky, they shared their dreams and whispered their silent vows to nurture the newfound sanctuary that had emerged from the ashes. In the cool embrace of twilight, each heartbeat resonated with a collective understanding that every soul present had been irrevocably transformed by the extraordinary journey they had shared, a journey that had seen the blind Mustang rise from the depths of despair to become a symbol of redemption and renewal. In that transcendent moment, as the final vestiges of daylight yielded to the soft luminescence of the moon, the ranch and its inhabitants were united in a shared vision of a brighter, more compassionate future. The Mustang, its steady gait imbued with the quiet wisdom of countless trials overcome, continued to traverse the revitalized grounds, a living testament to the truth that even the most wounded heart could be mended through the gentle power of love, empathy, and unwavering determination. Its silent presence spoke volumes to every witness, that redemption was not measured by the absence of scars, but by the resilience with which one embraced the journey of healing. Thus, as the night deepened and the tranquil chorus of nature enveloped the land, the saga of the blind Mustang reached its poignant culmination. The story, which had begun with despair and nearly ended in irrevocable loss, now concluded with a promise that every ending is but the prelude to a new beginning. In the soft interplay of starlight and shadow, the ranch bore witness to the timeless cycle of loss and rebirth, a cycle that would forever remind every soul that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, the light of redemption, nurtured by hope and boundless compassion, has the power to illuminate the most desolate of paths. With hearts united and spirits lifted, those who had borne witness to this extraordinary transformation stepped forward into the future, each carrying within them the indelible mark of a night when even a blind Mustang became the herald of a new dawn. Want to see more Mustang stories like this? Check out our other videos on Thunder Hoofbeats and like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an unforgettable journey. Until next time, keep the spirit of the wild alive.